The Mount Moon Review podcast, while a podcast about Pokemon, is not intended for children. You can expect some instances of adult humor, coarse language, and adult situations. Parental discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 45 of the Mount Moon Review podcast, the only podcast whose white knight is Sirfetch'd. I am your host, the Razgrees, with my co-host, the Blue Duck Gold Duck, bringing you everything you need to know from this world of Pokemon that's happened in a little over a past week in less than an hour. This has been a weird week, Duck.
Yeah. All week we got to watch the developing drama story. I went to Philly.
Yeah, the drama story, which we are going to talk about in depth here with a special guest, but we'll get to that. We have some other information that is non-mob mentality driven, so let's talk about that first, Duck. What do you have for us?
All right, so we finally received word about an official tournament being held by Pokemon.
Yeah, this is kind of in lieu of Worlds.
Right, so it's kind of like it's on a much smaller scale.
But
they're trying to simulate it. They're trying to simulate things, and it's if you're into it, it's pretty exciting. I think it's going to be very cutthroat environment to try to wiggle your way into.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be extremely cutthroat. I don't see a whole lot of... I don't know. I'm not that interested in it just because of the way that you have to enter is kind of prohibitive unless you happen to be lucky enough to be in that position, because there's no way to get into that position now in time. But we'll go into that. So go ahead, Doug.
So what they're doing is they're doing a bracketed double elimination tournament. That's crazy because it's not Swiss, right? Because if you were doing Swiss, you would have to upload the pairings, and then everybody would have to find themselves in the pairings, and then also find the other player's username online. At the scale of a regionals, or as some people have learned, some other fan sites that are trying to do tournaments have learned, that's chaotic. So it makes sense that they would do a bracket like this, so you can find out who you're going to play in every single round of the tournament.
Yeah, people like to complain about RK9 Labs, but quite frankly, for these large-scale events, a system in place like them, if you're going to do Swiss pairings, is kind of essential. just have the searchability and have the ability to push everything out, as opposed to if you go to a League Cup or a League Challenge. Say you have not been to a regionals yet, so you have not experienced this. If you go to a League Cup or League Challenge, they just print off a sheet and they tape it to the wall, and everyone runs up there, and they're all kind of crowded around it. And in a world post-Rona, that's just not the way it's going to be anymore. But for regionals, typically they use RK9 Labs, and they push everything out to your mobile devices through a mobile website.
I love RK9 Labs, actually.
It's pretty ezy. The only thing I don't like is the way you submit the deck. You have to have a Gmail account, or not Gmail.
Oh, yeah, the deckless submission is kind of weird, but they have updated that. When I started, they didn't auto-fill in the cards you had.
Ew.
So you had to actually type out the entire number. Now they have it so you start typing out a set number or a name, and then it's like, oh, you mean this exact card? And it's like, yeah, 4 of those.
Yeah, give me 4 of them. Yeah. But make sure that you don't put in a joke list, folks.
Yeah, don't. Why would you?
There's no reason to. But anyway. So, yeah, we're going with a bracketed list, though. So, okay, whatever.
Yeah, so it's going to be for VGC, TCG, and Pokken, just like your average regionals. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing is they're selecting a certain number of people from every region. And these are the 4 regions that have internationals. So, North America and Canada, or, America and Canada are going to be in North America. You're going to have Europe and Latin America and Oceania. They're picking 256 players, the top 256 players from North America, Europe, and Latin America, and the top 128 players from Oceania. I'm not sure if that's just a less populated or what. Why they're only doing 128 from Oceania?
No idea.
Isn't that like Japan and China included?
I don't know.
I believe. I mean, I know they have
usually Australia is mixed in with Japan, so it's possible.
Okay, and I know the Oceania, the international events are all held in Australia for Oceania. So I don't know, but it seems like you would want just as many players from there as.
Yeah, especially with Japan being, I think, that the home.
Right. So the way they're going to select the TCG players is they're going to take the top players on the TCGO ladder, which I believe is the tournament ladder, not.
It's not the versus ladder. It is based on your tournament rep from the event category. So if you go into events and you play in the 8-man tournaments, you're basically getting points for doing wins in those tournaments. Essentially, there's a real weird formula. I'm not sure if it's actually like posted anywhere what the formula is, how it determines your rep number. But essentially, right. If you can go on to Pokemon.com and look at the leaderboards, you can see what your rep is.
So I hope you have tickets.
That's the biggest.
That's the only way to play in those tournaments. I think there's like a 4-man pod starter deck tournament you can do for coins, I believe. But other than that, I'm pretty sure it's all tickets.
The only way to get the tickets is to play in the versus ladder.
Right, so you're going to have to grind.
Yeah, and it's
you either save them up or you grind them out.
Yeah, and it's for the entire month of June is when they're basing all your numbers on. So don't start yet. Start your grind now to get your tickets so you can use the tickets. But this is where it's going to become an issue where people that are currently grinding but don't do the tournament system, they just like to do the verses. They're posting pictures on like Verbank and stuff like that saying, I've got 2,000 tickets. And you look at other people like, I got 5.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. I personally, I have like 128 on my account, and that's how if I was going to take a deck, I'm like, okay, this is my deck. I want to see how good it is. I don't go to Versus to try it because it's hit or miss so much in Versus.
Well, in Versus, it could be somebody playing a meme deck. You don't know.
Exactly. So I try to find more serious players, and so I would gravitate towards the tournaments when I was coming into the final levels of playtesting.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like I did the same thing, so I would burn through my tickets. And I got packs. Oh boy, I see it as a flaw, but I mean, it's one of those things where you have to deal with what you got. So I understand there's.
Oh, exactly. I mean, what are they gonna? I guess they'd have to do a lot more programming to do anything else.
Yeah.
For VGC, if they're going to pick the top players from the upcoming international challenge we've covered before, that starts the beginning of May. Or wait, not May.
I'd say it's almost the end of May there, Ducky.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure when it starts, but it's the upcoming international challenge, and they're going to pick the top players from that, and that's basically the good players that play the most. Again, another grind, not necessarily your your best players, but the ones that grind the most. Now, there are players that stay at the top of these ladders in the monthly ranking system. So I guess those are the players we're going to see. I think there's going to be more representation from the pro VGC players than there are the pro TCG players.
Yeah, the VGC guys I think are going to be in a better position because they're already used to doing this. There's no gateway to enter as there is with the TCG side. And just because you're good at PTCGO does not translate into playing the actual card game. And the same goes the other direction. You can be great in person, but you can get your ass smoked on PTCGO. It's a whole different style of gameplay. And you're also going to see different decks as people don't have as much to... You're not investing as much into it. So if somebody says, I'm going to play this deck just because I like it. And they might. And it may be a stupid deck to play in a real-world tournament. But in PTCGO, it's a different ball game because you are not you're not built to. When you go into a regionals, you are building your deck to counter 2 to 3 other decks. You can't do that in PTCGO because there's going to be rogues all over the place.
Yes, exactly.
Because those people, you might be playing people in a tournament that they're not playing in for the splat. They're just playing to play, and so there's no meta. It's done. So, yeah. So it's going to be a weird thing. I see a lot of people complaining about this incessantly once it actually kicks off. But again,
hey, maybe some less known players can have a chance to shine in TCG here.
I would like to see, and I support what they're doing, because I'd actually like to see a version of a world championship where you have TCG, you have VGC, you have Pokken, and you have PTCGO. I would like to see. Awesome. I would like to see it have its own category.
That would be great.
That's my opinion, but
for Pokken, their event is going to be posted in the future. They don't have any information on it yet.
Yeah, typically it never is. Pokken's kind of like, oh yeah, that's right, we have a fighting game.
Yeah, that's like, sorry, but yeah, Pokken's kind of like, we don't even have a Pokken category.
Yeah, it really, yeah. And a lot of times people will show up to Worlds, and Worlds is a restriction. You can't just get a spectator pass. You have to get them well in advance. And a lot of times people are scalping spectator passes. But what will happen is you'll go to Worlds, and we saw this in DC. People are like, oh, wait, they're still taking registration for Pokken. They're registering, dropping immediately just so they can get in.
Yep.
So, Pokken's not, it's kind of an afterthought. It always is.
I know. It just feels bad if that's your game,
I do. I mean, there's people out there that are hardcore Pokken players. There is a Pokken cartridge here in my house somewhere. I've never played it yet. It's my son's, and I've never played. I mean, he doesn't play it either.
It's actually a pretty cool fighting style, the way it shifts from I think the 3D to the 2D style.
I think the biggest problem you see with it is there is no juniors or seniors division in Pokken. There's only a masters division because of the ranking, because of the ESRB rating on the game. So that's why you don't see, the kids that are playing Pokken, they can't play competitively.
Why does Pokken have a higher rating than Pokemon?
Violence.
Okay.
Trust me, it's the ESRB, dude.
Sure.
It's the ESRB. Who knows?
So the winners of these tournaments are going to receive travel awards to international events in the future.
Yeah, I like how it just says a future international event. It doesn't say which one. It's probably going to be whatever's closest to you.
Oh, yeah. I figured it would be like your choice. But yeah, it's probably going to be whatever you choose.
Oh, yeah. And like right now, I'm looking at our chat. It looks like there's somebody that actually never even heard of Pokken. So, I mean, that tells you about that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Pokken is a Pokemon fighting game that's on the Nintendo Switch. If you've never heard of it, look it up. It's actually a pretty cool game. The graphics are great.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I got it when I first bought my Switch. I got that and Breath of the Wild.
Well, maybe we'll play. Maybe I'll actually learn to play it and we'll play
it. But yeah, I mean, if I find it cheap, I'll grab it. So the events are going to be streamed, but I think they're going to be streamed after the competitions end. Like, it's not going to be a live stream.
It would be kind of difficult to do, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I thought it would be curious, or I'm curious to see how it, how it plays out.
If I had to guess, and this is purely a guess, they're probably going to. I know they're going to have some of the better known players on there, and probably some that stream as well. So you're probably going to see them. Hey, can you record that for us?
I mean, they might just make like a mashup of the different rounds.
Yeah, they might. Who knows? We'll see. And when we get more information, we will, of course, bring it to you on the Mount Moon Review podcast.
So that's that for the Players' Cup. Now, before we get into the next thing, I just want to mention that this felt worth mentioning. The Pokemon movie Coco its production is being postponed because of COVID-19. So just want to throw that out there before we get into the next juicy part of the podcast.
Juiciness.
Yeah.
So, typically, the podcast comes out on Mondays. I have had a ISP problem. I've had the technicians out to my house. Today would be the 4th time they've come out to try to fix this damn thing. Today I got 2 technicians. They think they figured it out. So we'll see what happens. So keep an eye on my Facebook page. You'll see me ranting about it, I'm sure. So we didn't get to record on Monday. We tried. We tried to have there's going to be 3 of us here. If you watch any of our other shows, you'll see that we have, like, for the Untitled Anime show that Duck and I do, we have a 3rd host on there. Her name is Saydar. Saydar was going to join us to give an actual female perspective. I know. Oh my gosh. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to do it live with us tonight, so I did a pre-recorded interview with her. But let's give a little bit of backstory about what we're going to talk about before I play that video. Duck, give us a quick synopsis.
All right, so Zach Lesage, winner of one of the international tournaments.
I think it was Australia.
Oceania.
Shut up.
Was playing in the Limitless Qualifier 3, I believe. And in round 5, he was at 2-2, and noticed the name of his opponent was Coochie Baby 5000.
Coochie Baby 5000.
He sees the name, he's like, that's kind of creepy. 2 people in the chat were like, yeah, kind of. And then he reported the name. This is all allegedly. I can't say for sure what happened. This is the internet. So
oh no, there's video. He was streaming at the time. There's video. This is what happened.
This is what right. So based on what I saw, I've seen probably all the videos they've posted. I've read accounts from every involved party. This is what I believe happened. Before he started playing, before he played his first card, he reported the kid, and then for the name, because he thought coochie was an inappropriate word, and the tournament organizers, the judge of that pod in the Limitless tournament, decided to disqualify Coochie Baby.
And not telling.
Right. That's where it gets a little confusing, because the judge made an account saying that she thought she told one of her younger or like lesser judges to tell him, and it was actually they were telling him after the round was over, and he was already looking for his next pairing before he found out that he was disqualified. So who knows, misunderstanding, whatever. They disqualified him because his name on PTCGO was Coochie Baby.
Yeah, it's not as if it's something that he just typed into the tournament. It was his name on PTCGO. That's a very important aspect you need to keep in mind.
Yep. And then Zach would lose the game. They made sure Zach kept his loss even though his opponent was disqualified. And then word got out to the internet.
Then the internet exploded. So a lot of this is revolving around, Zach. Did he report the kid because he was trying to get him disqualified so he'd get a free win? And was it justified to report that? It wasn't an inappropriate name. And there's a lot of people talking about this. And a lot of people. I mean, we're talking torches and pitchforks here. And we're going to talk. I'm going to play the interview I did with Saydar. And then we're going to come back and talk about our perspective, as people with penises. And then we are going to talk about the repercussions of what has the fallout of this has been. So just check out this interview with Saydar. Okay, so I want to personally thank Saydar from the Untitled Anime Show, available on all YouTube platforms, for joining us for the Mount Moon Review podcast. Saydar, thank you for joining us. Giving you a little bit of info about what was going on this past weekend with the Limitless tournament and Pokemon player Zach Lesage. And we wanted to get an actual woman's opinion. So you're here. So just to recap, Zach Lesage, he is a very well-known player. He plays for the Rare Candy team. And he was playing in the online PTCGO tournament that was being put on by Limitless. He was 2-2 at this point, and he's playing in an event with what he just knows to be another player. He doesn't know anything about them, other than their username, which was Coochie Baby 5000. He reported the name. Now, he was streaming his games on Twitch, and he started as soon as the game started up. He was telling his followers that, "Ooh, look at this guy's name. That's creepy," and I'm going to report it. And he reports the guy's name to the tournament organizers. Completes the game. He actually lost. The tournament organizers, in turn, dropped the ball and didn't even contact this kid, other than when he contacted them to figure out why he wasn't in the next round pairings. They told him, he was disqualified for having an inappropriate name. We have subsequently found out that Coochie Baby 5000, real name Sebastian, is a minor who is a senior that was put in the Masters division so he could play in the tournament and not be in a seniors division. And the username is that of his brother when he was playing Minecraft, and he's from England, I believe. So, wanted to get your opinion. So, I know you've looked over the materials. What do you got to say about it?
Well, one clarification is, I think you said that Lesage lost the game.
He did.
He actually quit. He saw he was losing, so he quit.
Well, he did. I shared the clip with you. It still counts as a game loss.
Right.
Even if you do.
I just wanted to make that distinction. He didn't lose. He quit before he could lose.
Okay.
But anyway, that's not why you invited me here. You wanted a female's opinion. And let me start by saying I don't find the term coochie offensive. I may not speak for all women, but when I think coochie, I think coochie coo, baby, baby talk, coochie baby. I'm thinking, I would actually assume that it's a female player, but that doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is that I don't find the term offensive. And I think in this situation, Lesage was wrong. And I also think that the tournament organizers were wrong. I don't think that Lesage really had a reason to white knight in this situation, and I do think that's what he was trying to do, was white knight for an offense that was not really offensive.
And even if it was, it wouldn't be offensive to him.
Well, it could be. I'm not going to... If the term was offensive, my argument is that it's not. My argument is also that Lesage wasn't really in a position to need to champion that. One, because the term's not offensive. What I find offensive is that he thought that the term was a reference to female genitalia, and he thought that was gross.
Yeah, I think those were his words.
Those were his exact words.
That name's gross.
Which implies that he thinks that female reproductive organs are gross, which that I find minorly offensive, along with many of Lesage's tweet history.
Yeah, let's talk about his tweet history. Okay. There's some of the things he says on there that I can't really even repeat.
Say on stream?
I can't. I don't want to say them.
Right. Because they're offensive.
They're offensive, and he's
homophobic,
sexist, and racist.
Yeah.
So what's that term about people who live in glass houses?
Yeah.
So yeah, but also something you said about I'm trying to remember exactly what you said about him feeling the need to champion it, as though he needs to be the one to defend women. That seems kind of weird to me.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to argue right now about whether or not it's a man's place to stand up for women, or whether women are capable of standing up for themselves. I'd like to think that men would join me in any type of sexualized oppression that I might encounter, but I don't need a man to tell me that I'm being oppressed and that he's going to rescue me, if that distinction makes sense. No,
I get it. And the whole, and you said about white knighting, and that's exactly what I saw when I mm-hmm. He was playing to his audience.
Right.
He was streaming on Twitch, which I do. Mm-hmm. And he didn't say, I need a moment because I'm finding this offensive, I need to report it. It was, hey, people in my chat room, don't you find this offensive? Because I find this offensive. Gross? Don't you find it gross?
Mm-hmm. But let me expand upon why I think that he and the tournament organizers were in the wrong. I don't need to tell you that PTCGO's got very strict regulations for when you register accounts.
It does. It's a pain in the butt. It really is. And I've had so many problems trying to help parents register accounts for their juniors and their juniors and seniors in some cases, or just themselves, because one, it's been around for a long time, so every username under the sun has been bloody well picked clean. But then it sees words within the word. So the filter for the usernames on PTCGO is strong, very strong.
Well, it has to be, because it's an international game. And that brings us to another element of this. And we have recently found out that Coochie Baby 5000 is not American. And the country that he lives in, Coochie, does not have the same...
connotation?
I shudder to say sexual connotation, because I really, in this case, think it's a stretch. And maybe I've lived a sheltered life, but regardless, this is an international game. Coochie Baby 5000 was not American. And I can give you examples from other languages of names that would be offensive in that language, but not offensive in another. For example, if my PTCGO name was La Vache Espagnole, but if you translated it in Google Translator, you would see that means the French or the Spanish cow. Mm-hmm. But if you were a native French speaker, you would know that that's slang for Spanish whore.
Isn't there a reference in Spanish to huevos?
Yep.
Isn't that another...
Eggs?
Yeah,
yep.
It's something about eggs. Do you have the eggs? And meaning something about masculinity.
Yeah.
I believe it's you never ask anybody in Spanish if they have eggs.
Male or female, don't ask them if they have eggs. You can ask them where the eggs are.
Where are the eggs?
And that
eggs are right here.
And that brings us to another slang term, which is lesage. Be careful how you use that word in France, people.
Yeah, we did look that up on Urban Dictionary, and it means pussy, folks. Which some people may find that word offensive, but that's...
Or possibly gross.
Or gross, even.
Not me.
Not me, no. But, yeah, so, I mean, it's... what you may find offensive, somebody else might not. Right. That's first and foremost.
And the tournament organizers here, I think, really need to reevaluate the way that they manage the situation. I mean, they were planning an event inside PTCGO.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had restrictions that extended past what PTCGO has already put in place, was that communicated in advance?
They did say you weren't allowed to have offensive names, but I would still argue that if it was offensive, it wouldn't got past the filter. And
if it was offensive, then why was the kid able to register?
That's what I'm saying. And this also isn't the first tournament with Limitless he's played in.
Right.
So he's played how many people have seen it, and there's been nothing. Now, subsequent, Zach has been removed from the Rare Candy team. They've parted ways. The manager, I guess you could say, or team captain maybe, for Rare Candy has been reaching out and trying to make it with Coochie Baby 5000. Unfortunately, this is mostly damage control, because the hashtag, Justice for Coochie Baby was trending. It took off like wildfire. Now, this is, mob mentality. Mm-hmm. Would this have taken off? I think if it wasn't for the fact that it was so amusing, that, somebody came up with the hashtag Justice for Coochie Baby, that helped. That helped it spread. And a mob likes, you like to get your torches and pitchforks, folks. We're going. Do you think that the pushback and the flame over for Lesage, I'm not sure how you actually pronounce his name, is warranted?
Yeah, I do. Actually, in this situation, I do. At the end of the day, Pokemon, the card game, is a kid's game.
Is it?
Well, no, it's a kid's game that people of all ages enjoy. It's a kid's game in the same way that Legos are for kids. You still have people of all ages enjoying them. The box says fun for ages up to 99. I think of the Pokemon card game the same way. And in this case, we've got a young player who is up and coming on the world stage, who got smacked down, whether it was a temper tantrum because he was losing or just trying to, get likes on his Twitch account or something, or more subscribers. Who knows?
Yeah. Now, just to clarify one thing, he did report the name before he was losing. So the whole argument was he was losing to this kid, and that's why he reported him. I don't buy it. Now, I wasn't watching the stream. I've seen clips from the VOD, and that's what it appears to be to me, unless it was manipulated. I don't think it was, but if that was the case, it doesn't appear as though he did it just because he was losing. I think it's just a happy coincidence. But I think it was mostly just pandering to the audience.
I agree. And I think that Lesage messed up. I really think that he messed up in this case. I don't think he's the only one that deserves blame here, though. The kid was done wrong. Sebastian was done wrong in this situation, not just by Lesage, who has proven on Twitter over and over again that he is not role model material. But in this case, I think that the tournament organizers also share a brunt of the responsibility here for the negative experience that this kid had in the tournament. So I do think, I think it's just a really sad situation. And I hope that Coochie Baby is able to continue to play and enjoy the game without having this follow him or sour him on the game as a whole.
I read somewhere that he, because he did a post on Reddit where he gave his side of it, and it was very well written, and he was very articulate. He wasn't nasty about anything, and he holds no grudge against really anybody. But he did say he put in a ticket to get the name changed, because that is one thing about PTCGO. It is extremely difficult to change your username. You have to essentially put in a support ticket and ask the Pokemon Company to do it for you. You can't. There's no way for you to request a name change. Mm-hmm. So we know he says he's putting in for one. Do you think he really should?
I think, frankly, it's a sign of maturity. Really, I read the same Reddit post, and the young man was mature beyond his years there. And should he have to? No, but this blew up big enough with the trending hashtag and everything that I think it's a sign of grace for Zach and for Limitless and for everybody else who got swallowed up in this storm, for him to just see if he can change his name and go back to the anonymous online play.
Yeah.
And put all of this behind him.
Yeah, that is one thing about PTCGO. I would always recommend it to new people to the game, especially juniors and seniors when they come into my league with their parents. And they make comments about being worried about their children playing online, and that was the thing. It was a very safe platform because it doesn't allow communication, unless you lie and get an adult account, and then you accept a friend request. It's very difficult to try to communicate with somebody. So I would always tell people, just make sure they have a children's account. It's a very safe program. It really is, and you should continue to use that. Don't look at the PTCGO as a bad thing if you haven't played it. Give it a try. It's a great program. It's a great way to try out decks. I also don't think... I think Limitless had a knee-jerk reaction. The one judge had a knee-jerk reaction, and I probably think that Zach's name had a lot to do with it, because he has won internationals before. So it's a big name. People know it. So I think that probably... They say it didn't, but I'd be hard-pressed to say that the guy didn't know who it was. And that has to play in some way, even if it's on a subconscious level. I think they're going to learn from this. I think they're going to adapt. And this is something they're just starting. This whole concept of these online tournaments is completely new. Duck and I have done online hosted tournaments. Now, we had much smaller numbers, but we still had hiccups, and we adapted. We learned over each tournament how to do a little bit better. So I think Limitless is going to be just fine. They're gonna. I don't think anybody should like not get in those tournaments. By all means, you're at home. You might as well do something. So do that. And I just don't. I think Rare Candy, the team that sponsored Zach, is responding very well too. So I think everybody is handling this rather well. Mm-hmm. So, have you anything else you want to add?
No, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you about this. I think, I have to say, I think that the whole situation was kind of sad, but I think that everyone has been responding about everyone that's involved has been responding about as well as they could, and mistakes happen. You're right, mistakes happen, and it's a learning experience.
All right, well, thanks for being on the show, and we hope to see you back. And we can also catch you on the Untitled Anime Show,
That's
also
right.
as part of the Mount Moon crew here on our YouTube channel. So give that a watch, folks. Thanks a lot. Okay, so that was our our brief interview. It was supposed to be brief, but didn't turn out that way with Saydar, also part of the Mount Moon crew here on our network. So make sure to check out the shows that she's on, the Untitled Anime Show. So, Duck, you listened. That was the first time you've. No, that's actually the second time you've listened to her interview. Yep. Let's hear your thoughts on this.
So, I mean, it kind of. I feel. First of all, I don't support any party in any of this. The only well, I support Coochie Baby 5000.
Justice for Coochie Baby.
What he had to go through was uncalled for. It wasn't really fair. You get kicked out of a tournament that you're doing okay in. You had to come off of the high of being a pro to find out you got disqualified. That sucks.
Because the pro was butthurt.
He did nothing wrong and didn't deserve to be, dropped from a tournament. But I can't believe this blew up.
It is something that normally wouldn't have happened like this. It was a mob mentality. And it started with a couple memes on Verbank and just kind of went from there. Now, that being said, I'm kind of glad that it did blow up. And I say that only because Zach is a well-known player. And I said it during the interview, I have to think that played some factor into his report being taken more seriously. That being said, if this had not blown up the way it had, Sebastian, Coochie Baby, whatever you want to call him, you never would have heard from him. He just would have been discarded and forgot about. And I think that is a complete injustice. And I do not like the idea of the court of public opinion dictating policy. But in this particular case, it was kind of justified in that there's no other way this would have been satisfied if it hadn't.
That's true, and if you in Coochie Baby's Reddit account,
which was extremely well written, and I think very wise beyond his years.
It was just like to read how he said he felt when he took a couple hours off the internet because he was so sad, and went back to it to find that the community of Pokemon players was standing behind him instead of siding with this pro player in Limitless. That warmed my heart. That reading the Reddit post made me feel so much better about the whole situation. But I also Zach got a little immature at the end of the game. He arguably shouldn't have reported the name. I don't think it should have been reported to Limitless. I think Limitless is more wrong here than anybody else.
Limitless, Limitless just said, well, it got past the filter. We'll talk to him about it next time. I mean, and this wasn't the first tournament that he'd been in. And part of the reason I think that this was reported, not because anybody was offended, but because he was streaming on Twitch and he was performing. Because I'm not the same person, believe it or not, when I'm on stream and when I'm not. I swear like a sailor. Oh my God, I do. Duck knows that. He's trying to stifle the laughter, but I am foul. I'm not like that on stream. I'm also very much. I try to be engaging. Whereas when I'm not on stream, when I'm not performing, I'm an introvert. I don't want anything. It's like when I was involved with professional wrestling, I played a character, and when I went out through that curtain, I was that character. It's kind of like I don't want to call it method acting, but that, I was that character. And the same thing happens on stream. And when you're on stream, you're performing because you're trying to get people to like you and follow you and stuff like that. And, if you do something that's going to get people on your side, I think that was part of it. I don't know if he was actually offended or not. I'd love to talk to Zach about it. He was going to be on the podcast here a couple months ago before everything went sideways. But we just couldn't get the schedules to match up right to do it. It was right after he won Oceania, I believe. And if he still wants to come on, he's more than welcome to. I'd love to have him on and speak about it, and see But at the same time, I'm gonna hold him accountable, especially for the tweets that popped up subsequent, where people went back and looked. And
I don't think that's really fair to bring into this particular situation.
I kind of do, because it goes into the mindset. How can you be offended by somebody using the name Coochie when?
Oh, okay. When you're saying this is your character. Okay. I get you. Yeah, I actually kind of agree now.
Yeah, it's like I'm offended by somebody saying Coochie, but I can bash somebody for being a lesbian and saying that they're not really lesbians. They want this, and then also the racist stuff that he was posting too. So, I'm sorry, you've given up the right to say you're offended by the term Coochie.
No, yeah, I wasn't looking at it from that angle. That is 100. I am 100% behind you on that.
So,
do you think he deserved to be kicked off of his team?
That is between him and his team. I don't think that. I believe that the team captain's name is Eric. That's between them. And I think, unfortunately, they got themselves put into a situation where it's everybody in the Pokemon community that plays competitively. There's a very limited number of groups that they belong to on the internet. One of them, and we've mentioned it before, even during this podcast, is called Verbank. And it blew up, and it was decidedly, on Coochie Baby's side. Zach got raked over the bloody coals in there. Some of the memes were just priceless. And I think just from a PR perspective, they kind of had to, from a business side, they had to break. They had to part ways.
I think that's the biggest reason. Now, I don't really think this offense alone, compartmentalized, is like why you should get kicked from a team. It was like a small mistake, but
it's going to hurt their
100%
from a business perspective. It's going to hurt them.
Get. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Zach will bounce back. He's still got followers. He's still got fans. He'll bounce back. Another team will pick him up, or he'll just go independent. I
mean, let's just look at Igor Acosta. He was one of the players in the world, like won the most amount of points in the world. Then, we don't have to get into specifics, but did some really, really shady stuff and left for a year, and now he's back. So,
yeah,
and nobody hates him.
So, I mean, Zach's not done. He's not done by a long shot. And it's important to also point out that TCPI, acronyms everywhere, is not involved in any of this.
No.
And nor will they be. So it's not as if he's looking at getting a ban or anything like that.
Right. There's rumors that it was reported to Pokemon Company, but it was, and according to almost all involved parties, it was not reported directly to TPCI.
Yeah, TCPI, and they won't.
TCPI.
The Pokemon. Yeah, TPCI. You're right. Yeah.
Well, I have it in front of me in the notes.
Nice.
So one thing that blows my mind though, I remember being furious and fuming about that poor girl who got DQ'd in Brazil, the American girl that went to North American Central American Internationals.
I don't remember.
She got DQ'd because, she wanted to make sure her opponent wasn't stacking the deck.
I forget what she did. Oh God, I can't remember.
She cut her opponent's deck so the marked cards weren't on top, and they're like, well, that's also stacking. So okay, so that maybe that was a bad example because it kind of is. That's arguably a rule. But how about the judge at Worlds that was letting players use Zidane GX when they were ability locked.
Yeah.
Or, how many players lost their game? How about the judge that reported the guy for not shuffling his deck enough because the card didn't on the bottom of the deck didn't change when it clearly changed? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. We had video of that.
Where was the community? Where was this community then?
Their names weren't Coochie Baby, and it wasn't very good for making a meme.
I mean,
that's what it was. I mean, I'm dead serious. That's what it was. This all kicked off because people thought the name was funny. That's why.
Yeah.
And it's a crappy way that it happened, and there should be more outrage for things that happen. There should be judges held accountable for stupid decisions. There should be cheaters held responsible, and typically they're not. They're just, oh, well, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. But because this kid had a funny name and it lent itself to making some hilarious memes, the mob got its torches and pitchforks and they stormed the castle. Frankenstein's monster was running back to Canada. I mean, it was... But that's why. And that's why. Because cases that get shown in the news are there because they're sexy. You know what I mean? It's not...
Yeah.
If it doesn't get people to watch, then they're not going to show it on the news. Same thing for the internet. If it's not like, this is funny to me, or, this is something that gives me entertainment, they're not going to get behind it. The name Coochie Baby is hilarious. And I really, I wanted to be playing an Alan Jackson song right now where he says it gets hotter than a hoochie coochie. I wanted to be playing that during the interview. I didn't want to get flagged for copyright content. But
what is the term coochie referring to in that song?
Nothing. It's nonsensical.
What is a hoochie coochie?
No, it's nonsensical. Mm-hmm. It gets hotter than a hoochie coochie. What the heck? It's Alan Jackson, and dude's cleaner than... Well, anything really. But anyway, okay. So I think we've covered Coochie Baby 5000 into the ground right now. Do you have anything else you want to add there, Ducky?
Nope.
I think that's all we have this week. Hopefully next week, if our internet and my internet I've been watching, I have not dropped a single frame, Duck.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm at drop frames 0.0%. Maybe it's fixed. I don't know. We are going to record an episode of the Untitled Anime Show this week. Be sure to check that out. We're doing Miss Kobayashi, right?
Yes,
we're going to do Miss Kobayashi. So that's basically a good one. I hope we haven't talked about it, and I hope you liked it, Duck, because I picked it. So other than that, Duck, get us out of here.
All right, guys. Until next time, just remember, if it's too good to be Zach Lesage, it's probably Coochie Baby.
Oh my God! Have a week.
Just because your card is magic, you think you're safe because you killed my life orb. Baby, do you dare to not flinch? Cause I'm coming at you like a dark pulse. I know you're gonna throw. You're gonna throw a stone. But I got that lucky chance. There's no critical hits.